The Earth is believed to be billions of years old, and we humans who inhabit this planet have been around for hundreds of thousands of years. And over that time, we've questioned our existence in all sorts of ways. But it wasn't until later that our questions would become much more direct. Why do we exist? And beyond that, what is the meaning of life? Today, we're going to be exploring a manga recommended to me by a viewer titled She Doesn't Know Why She Lives by Anu, and seeing if we can answer that age-old question. But before we begin, if you enjoy this video at any point, please go ahead and like and subscribe. I'm making a lot of content like this throughout the year, and with that said, let's go ahead and begin. I believe that to some degree, we are always questioning our existence. In a world this vast, where we were seemingly just plopped down on, we have no choice but to ask questions. Izumi Sumi is no exception. She's a 25-year-old part-time worker who, just like us, is in a constant loop of questioning her existence. She lives day by day unaware of her purpose or her reason for being, with an urge to become something inanimate, free from responsibilities and grotesque thoughts like these. With no clear goals, no hobbies, and nothing to give purpose to her unfulfilling life, Izumi is stuck in a constant loop of inability and disappointment. She realizes that something is off in her life, that she isn't living for any specific reason, but she clings to the idea that maybe, one day, a miracle will happen. Maybe one day, someone will notice her pain. Maybe one day, someone will give her a reason for being. But at the same time, she knows that the world isn't that convenient. She knows that what she's doing is running away, trying to ease the struggle of everyday life. So with the shut of her eyes, and a desire to not face the reality of tomorrow, she falls asleep. But just like the previous day, and the day before, and the day before, her alarm still wakes her up, drawing her back into the reality. You know, I've seen a lot of characters that embody that sort of life sucks energy, but here I felt as though it was captured in sort of a different way. It's not just that she's upset and that she's just aimless. Everything in her life proves to be difficult. Talking to people is difficult. Having to face people is difficult. Living the same monotonous life is difficult. But in the same vein, Izumi doesn't necessarily crave change. And that's where this story hits the nail on the head. Though this life of waking up every day, going to work, only to come back home hours and hours later isn't fulfilling, it's the only life that she knows. While I was reading this manga, there was one word that I kept attaching to Izumi. One single word. Stagnation. In the conversation with her younger self in chapter 4, Izumi doesn't have an answer as to whether or not she wants to change her current lifestyle. And it's because of that reason why her life became so aimless. There's no incentive for change. There's no incentive to do better. Because Izumi herself doesn't even know what she wants. Whether you've experienced it or not yourself, this really does reflect what every day is like for many people. You get so used to your lifestyle that you just don't know anymore. You don't know if you're happy. You don't know if you're sad. You don't know if there's even any point in change. It's that somber feeling of adaptation that keeps people locked in place. You've effectively adapted to the mess around you. You're not living. You're simply enduring. And as we continue watching Izumi's daily life unfold, we see why exactly everything is like this. Her friends are doing big things, talking about their partners, their jobs, their hobbies, planning these trips, while she's the only one left behind. How is it that they've had the same upbringing, they all went to the same college, they all worked, yet Izumi is the only one left behind? It's overwhelming. It's crushing. So once again, she runs away, leaving her friends completely behind. But as if echoing to her that running away won't solve anything, Izumi continues stumbling every time, every single chapter. From dropping her clothespin off the balcony and breaking out in tears, to getting irritated at the most minor of things happening around her, paired with the fact that pretty soon she'd have to return to work after calling in and potentially face scrutiny from her boss, it doesn't ever get better. But ironically, I feel like that's part of the charm of this manga. Although that may sound grim, the fact that Izumi's life never magically gets fixed, or the fact that she never magically reaches a solution, is very realistic. Things won't immediately change. That's the idea that the story has been trying to hammer into the audience since the beginning. But when she returns to work the next day, as strange as it is, one of her coworkers, Mizuno Kanade, finds herself interested in her. Incidentally, this isn't the only instance either. Even when Izumi called in, she gave her a call to make sure everything was alright. Kanade has always been in the background trying to get closer to Izumi. But despite facing rejection after rejection from Izumi, Kanade continues trying to reach out to her. And though it doesn't work the first time, the second time, or the third time, it eventually does. And they find themselves at a family diner together. And it's here that we see something very interesting. Because of Kanade's appearance, Izumi believes that she has a lot of friends, that she's a social butterfly, when in reality, that's just not the case. As surprising as it is, Kanade's upbringing is actually quite similar to her own. While her friends went off to become successful in whatever they did, Kanade was the odd one out. And before she knew it, everything around her began changing, until it reached the point where she was all alone, stuck in a similar loop of stagnation. And then, there's the question. Have you ever thought, why am I alive? Now, while this quote is kind of dropped in the middle of nowhere in terms of the story, after ruminating over this for a few days, this kind of pointed at something deeper to me that I wanted to include in this section. Kanade thus far has been defined by stereotypes throughout the story. At first glance, Izumi thought that she was an extrovert, a social butterfly. She has all these friends, when in reality, she was contemplating the same questions as her. It really goes to show that there are more people dealing with things like this than you actually realize. I've seen this myself in real life. There have been some times where I've been talking to my close friends, and I'll let something slip about maybe how I'm feeling or how life has been going, and surprisingly, they'll follow up, either relating or giving their own stance. So this part really stood out to me. You can never know things about someone at a first glance, no matter how well you know that person. But beyond just fleshing out Kanade beyond those stereotypes, this interaction unifies Izumi's feelings with another person. She believed herself to be alone, to be the sole one left behind. But what happens when two people who have quote-unquote been left behind meet? Well, they coexist. Kanade isn't the miracle that Izumi wished for. Not even close, really. They can't hear each other out because they're both stuck on the same problem. But unlike Izumi, Kanade is a girl who has made up her mind. She's a girl who wants to learn. She's a girl that wants to change. This especially becomes clear after the conversation with the manager in the diner, where Izumi and Kanade both receive advice. Problems differ from person to person, but what matters is how you choose to confront them. They don't have to be solved immediately. It's okay to take your time and learn. And this advice is the start of a big change for Kanade, though the same can't be said for Izumi. Though she tried changing her approach to life, such as doing things she typically wouldn't, like some stretches, that still doesn't change her. She still feels alone in conversations of three. She still feels like she wasted her life away. And above all, she's still aimless. But while there is a lot of negative things that can be highlighted in her current life, some good has emerged too. For starters, you have Kanade. Though I haven't put much emphasis on it, Kanade has become someone that she can rely on. That's the one thing that has changed in her life. She's no longer completely alone. She has someone to laugh with, someone to relate to, and someone to give her company. And while that may seem like something minor, in the grand pool of everything that's gone wrong, even a minor change is still something. And sometimes, a minor change is really what's needed to get the ball rolling. But it's not until Christmas arrives that we see something very interesting. At this point, Izumi doesn't really have anyone besides Kanade. So when Christmas rolls around and Kanade doesn't go ahead and invite her out, we once again plunge into that harsh reality, and we see a different side of truth. With change comes expectations, and when those expectations aren't met, you get hurt. Even subconsciously, Kanade had begun taking up a large portion of her thoughts. She's all she had, after all. But when Izumi sees Kanade hanging out with other people instead of her on Christmas, it comes as a brutal realization that I dare even say recontextualizes the prior events. Her and Kanade were supposedly similar in their shared loneliness, but In reality, that wasn't entirely true. Kanade still had friends she could be close with, and on a scale, those friends still took more priority than her. To Kanade, Izumi was just a work friend, so even though some things had changed this year, just like last year, she'd again be alone, asking the question of, why am I alive? But it gets worse. At work, it's been settled that Kanade will be moving up to a full-time position, but in order to train for that position, she would be getting moved to a bigger location. To put everything simply, Izumi would once again find herself all alone. And here it's where we see this sort of drawback to what happened at the diner. Kanade made up her mind to work harder after her prior conversation with Izumi and the manager. And here we see that everything is working well. She's hanging out with her friends more, and she's even being pretty much promoted. But again, for Izumi, we don't see the same sort of change. It's a difficult yet needed realization that the barriers standing in Izumi's way were always much larger than Kanade's, that her starting point was always farther away. But with everything in mind, our protagonist is put in a very interesting position. With Kanade changing location soon, she can either remain in stagnation and let their relationship naturally crumble, or she can take action and potentially salvage what they have. A friendship not strictly defined by work, but by mutual connection. And that is the path that Izumi chooses to take. She makes the choice to ask Kanade if they can remain friends, and it all works out well. This action of reaching out to someone, of following what she wants, of choosing to not remain in stagnation, is really Izumi's first stand, I want to say. This is the first time that she didn't let things crumble. This is the first time that she took her own initiative. That is the start of change. So now we're towards the end of this manga in this video, and I bet you're wondering, how will this change me? What was the point of sharing this whole story? I'll get to that very soon, but let's finish the story first. In the final chapter, Kanade shares one of her current hobbies with Izumi, which is gardening. So by herself on her balcony, she waters the plant given to her by her friend while looking forward to their next interaction. But beyond everything, something finally changes. Throughout this manga, Izumi has been under the assumption that the worries that she has are worries that cannot be overcome. And though she won't magically be able to triumph over those worries, the plant given to her, her interactions with Kanade, all of it will eventually allow her to stumble upon an opening. And even if that opening is uncertain, or if she herself is uncertain, she can always take a detour and regain her footing, because that's her way of life right now. It's a pretty mundane ending, isn't it? She doesn't magically heal, she doesn't magically find meaning in life. Oh, and in case you also haven't noticed, the question of why am I alive never gets fully answered. But I assure you, that is intentional. Nobody, not me making this video, nor you watching this video, no one in this world knows why they're alive or what the purpose of life is. No one knows the definite answer, at least. But as this manga has shown us, or as you may see it in even your everyday life, people carve out meanings for themselves. Some people think that the reason they're alive is to be there for their family, while others believe that they're alive to follow their passion. With that in mind, this manga was never meant to answer that question, but rather, it was made with the intention of watching someone slowly find an answer to that question themselves, through experience, through failure, through detour. What's the reason for Izumi Sumi's existence? Why is she alive? She doesn't know, and even at the end of the manga, she's still in that loop of stagnation, but she learns that it's okay if she doesn't exactly know. It's a subtle message, but it is a message that I believe will resonate with someone very deeply watching this video. You don't have to find a meaning for your life today. You don't have to find a meaning for your life tomorrow, the day after that, or the next year. Finding out your reason for being is not a race. It may take you until you're 25 or 26, or it may take you longer. It may take you until you're on your deathbed to figure out your reason. And is that bad? Absolutely not. I feel like a lot of times in life we are coaxed into thinking that if we're too slow to something, that's not good, that we're behind, when in reality, that's not true. Everybody moves at their own pace, and there's no need to rush. One day you will discover your meaning for yourself, and it won't be a meaning carved by someone completely different. It'll be something unique to you. So, why are you alive? What is the purpose of living? Those are questions that I can't answer for you. I'm sorry if you maybe thought I would. I can't. Those are questions that you need to answer for yourself, and it will take time, and I assure you, that is a-okay. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I'm aware that compared to some of my other videos, this may not have been the best, and that's because I'm kind of trying to focus more on simplicity. I feel like with my videos, I have a tendency to revise over and over and over and edit for hours and hours and hours, and that does kind of slow down the process. I'm kind of trying to stray away from that. I think that with some videos, it's okay to do that if it's a bigger video, but if it's a normal video like this, I don't want to do that every time, you know? But please, do let me know in the comments down below. How do you feel about everything? At the time you're watching this, have you found your reason for being? Do you know what the purpose of your life is? I'm very curious. Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching again, and I'll see you all later.